guys, welcome back to my channel. Finally, June is over.
And it was really a nightmare month, to be honest.
So I'm really excited and hopeful for what July may bring. Now, as always, at the end of the month or at the beginning of the next month, I share our numbers for the dry van, so that's what we're going to be doing today. Ready? Let's go! Now, usually June is an amazing month in trucking, but unfortunately this year, June leaves much to be desired. Now, before we get into the numbers, I want to remind all of you that you won't see expenses such as driver's salary, payroll taxes, workers' comp, and so on. And this is because the dry van is operated by owner-operators who do an owner draw at the end of the month. Now that that's all cleared up, let's get into some numbers. Okay, so those are our numbers for this month. Now, as always, I have the pickup date and the delivery date of the load rate, not including any detention, layover, not that we had much of this, the total miles with deadhead, the rate per mile with deadhead, and then the originating state and where it delivered for each load. Now, something I want you to note is that this month was a little bit wonky. So these loads were not all team loads. At some points, one of the guys had to go home. At another point, another guy had to go home. So basically, there are solo loads mixed with team loads, and it's a big, messy jumble of stuff. But basically, this month, the gross income was $42,926.25. The total miles were 19,153 miles, and the average rate per mile with deadhead was $2.25. Now, as I always say, you will see that the highest rate per mile was right here, $3.13, and it also happened to be the lowest miles. Again, those short mile loads pay the highest rate per mile. You will also see that there is no real pattern here. The only thing you can deduct from this is that loads from Arizona pay pretty well in general. Loads from states like Ohio don't pay very well. Wisconsin as well. It didn't pay very well to go to Arizona, but that's because Arizona is a hot market. So the price to go to Arizona is, of course, pretty low. Now, something you will also note is from Illinois to Pennsylvania paid pretty well, but this is because even though Illinois is not a great market, going to Pennsylvania where there are a ton of loads, but I like to call Pennsylvania's load board as basically a ton of crap littering the load board because there's so many loads there, but none of them are worth it. So from Illinois to Pennsylvania, it paid very well because, again, you can't really get anything decent from Pennsylvania. Now, from Pennsylvania, our last load was to Utah and it paid more or less. I mean, it was over $2. What can you do? But it goes to Utah, and I know that on the 5th, the day after tomorrow, I'm going to be breaking my head trying to get that dry van out of Utah. So that's going to be fun. Now that we've looked at the loads we did, let's go ahead and look at the expenses. All right, so here are our expenses. Again, just as a reminder, the total miles this month were 19,153 miles. Now, our fixed cost was the truck and trailer payments, $2,085, which is about 11 cents per mile in terms of cost per mile. The load board, which is about $40, which is too small of a cost per mile to even mention here. And insurance, $2,164, which is about 12 cents per mile. So the total fixed cost was right here, about 23 cents per mile is our fixed cost. Now, the variable cost is tolls, $224, about 2 cents per mile. Fuel, $14,127, about 74 cents per mile. So we actually increased that cost from last month. Maintenance, $2,037, which is about 11 cents per mile. And taxes, which is the Oregon tax, which is again too low to even calculate the cost per mile. But basically the variable costs are right here, about 86 cents per mile. So gross income, $42,926. All expenses, fixed plus variable, $20,773. So this is the net income. And in terms of rate per mile versus cost per mile, here we go, and it's about $1.16 profit per mile. Now, this is all very interesting. Again, a lot of you will be saying, hey, 22,000 is not bad. But again, this month was a little bit wonky, but there were a ton of team loads there. It was a mix though. The thing is, in order to understand how the market has changed, I want to do a little graph to show you how it has changed since we opened this company, which was at the end of last year, but we really started operating full-time in January of 2022. So that's what we're going to do right now. Let's look at the graph of how the market has changed. Okay, friends, well, I got myself 3 markers and we are going to be looking at several different things. So this is only for the dry van. And what we're going to be looking for is the performance from January all the way to June, which is this month. Basically on this left side, this is the rate per mile. So for every month, I will be putting up a dot for the average rate per mile that we got the loads for during that month. Then on this side is 10K, 20K, 30K, 40K, 50K. And this will be for the expenses and the gross income. So let's start with rate per mile, which is blue. So January for the dry van, which was completely solo operated, the average rate per mile with deadhead was $3.95. So it was somewhere right here. In February, it was completely solo operated and the average rate per mile with deadhead was $2.84. So somewhere right here. In March, again, the dry van was completely solo operated and the average rate per mile with deadhead was $2.72. So somewhere right here. In April is when we started operating the dry van with team drivers, and even though there were some solo loads, in theory, we made them into team loads by delivering them earlier. The rate per mile with deadhead for April was $2.48. May, also team operated, $2.37. And then this month, June, which was a wonky month because there were some solo loads, there were some team loads, but the rate per mile was $2.25. So somewhere right here. Now, don't judge me on the fact that I am completely off here. You get the idea. So the rate per mile looks something like this. This is our rate per mile. Now the fun part. Let's look at how the expenses changed from month to month. In January, solo operated dry van had an expense of $11,786. So it was somewhere right here. In February, solo operated, the expense was $12,172. So just a little bit more. In March, the expense, solo operated, was again $11,822. So it went back to pretty much what it was in January. In April, it was team operated, so the expenses doubled, literally. The expenses for April were $22,223, so somewhere right here. May, the expenses were $22,485, which is pretty similar to April. Again, it was team operated, somewhere right here probably. There we go. And then June, again, as a reminder, wonky month. The expenses were $20,773, even though there were some solo loads. So this is our expense chart. It was like this, and then it went like this. This is our expense. Now let's look at the gross income, and for that I'm going to get my handy dandy black marker because I am in mourning. Okay, so for January, solo operated dry van. The gross income was $32,930, so almost $33,000. So it was somewhere right here. In February, solo operated $30,555. In March, the income was solo operated $22,279. The reason it dropped so much in March is because it was solo operated and that owner operator was not in the truck the whole time because we had to do a ton of different things for the company, which did not allow us to run a full month. So actually it should be 22,000 is somewhere right here. Now in April it jumps, and the reason it jumps is because it was team loads and solo loads were turned into team loads. So in April we made a gross of $54,025. So somewhere up here, it was $54,985, which is also really, really high because it was team operated. And in June, it's $42,926 because, again, some team loads, some solo loads. So basically, this is what the gross income looks like. So what can we see from this? Well, the gross income looks amazing because, again, 2 drivers are better than 1 in terms of making money on a gross level. But what you can see is that the rate per mile dropped as time went by and the expenses went up as time went by. The expenses in June seem to have dropped, but this is because the truck was not running double time all month long. But yeah, this is what it looks like. It seems like this distance between expenses and rate per mile is getting smaller and smaller, which is not fun at all. Now, as I was saying to one of our team members today, we were talking about the market, and I mentioned to him, and he agrees 100%, is that the market, and we know this for sure, the market will correct itself. It always does. The only thing we're unsure of is when. When is it going to correct itself? When is this distance going to start getting bigger and bigger? Either because the expenses go down or the load rates go up. Because this is not sustainable. This is a recipe for disaster if it continues this way, because more and more trucking companies are going to go out of business with the current AB5 law in California being pretty much implemented for the trucking industry any day now because of the Supreme Court. It means that a lot of trucking businesses will be either ceasing operations or scaling down, which means that at some point there are just not going to be enough trucking companies to haul the amount of loads that will be available on the market. And if no one is hauling the loads, that means the cost of transportation rises because those rates go up. And of course, this is also passed down to the consumer, as it already is. We're seeing price increases across the board, except for the load board. But it is what it is. The market will correct itself at some point. The main thing, as I always say, is to just buckle down and surf this wave and make the best of it and roll with the punches. So I hope you guys found this video helpful, and I hope you guys are surviving out there and keeping your head above water. That's the most important thing. Thankfully, we are managing to do just that, and hopefully this will continue to be the case until the market finally decides to wake up, shake up, and, you know, get those load rates back up again. But yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.